Yeah.
Jacob, I have to know. Like,
Yeah.
what did you do to your hair? Is it raining or something? Because you're looking extra like Canadian
It's
bad
pouring.
guy right now.
It's pouring. Yeah. I just got off the in Vancouver. We have what's called the Sky Train, which is kind of fancy, and then it turns into a bus. And then I just
It,
walked the
it,
15 minutes from the bus stop to my
I'm sorry.
apartment.
It converts into a bus. So it's a train that converts into a bus.
No, you take the Sky
That
Train,
is
you get off the
fancy.
Sky Train.
Oh, okay.
So the Sky, well, so it's the same thing pretty much. I mean, it's down below and then it goes up. It's like a citywide roller coaster if you really think about it.
Can it go on water?
Yeah, I was
No,
wondering
but
if it converts into a boat
actually-
next.
No, but we do have something called a sea bus. And so in Vancouver, the city, so there's Vancouver, and then there's what's called the Lower Mainland, which is like the main downtown area. And then there's North Vancouver and West Vancouver, which are across the inlet. And so if you want to get to North Vancouver, it's instead of, driving all the way down to East Vancouver and up over the bridge and then back across, you just take what's called the sea bus and you go down to the harbor and you get on a little thing that has, 40, 50 seats or so. And then they just fire you across the inlet. It takes about 15 minutes and then you get into North Vancouver.
Dude, that's
so you
intense.
can take the Sky Train
I stopped listening.
down to the bus, down to the sea bus.
Just terrible. Jesus.
Anyway, yes, it's raining.
So what I heard
That's
is
your question.
you ride a train that turns into a bus that also can float in the ocean.
Yeah, exactly.
That is amazing.
And then if none of those work, I just ride a dragon.
Well,
I thought it was a moose.
Canada is a magical land. They have bags of milk. They have buses that convert into boats. It's incredible. I'm so jealous.
Oh my! All right.
They have the metric system.
We do have that.
It's incredible. I don't even know what to say. They have their own version of football, which is kind of like ours, but nowhere near as good.
Well, our version of football is basically what Zach Taylor did in the division or in the conference championship game, where he just ran it into the line for no yards on the first down every time, and then they had to play with 2 downs. So and that's Canadian football.
So I assume, Heath, and I'm going to throw you in on this. I assume, right, we're all rooting for the Bengals, right? Because we hate McVay because he's too handsome.
No, I think I'm taking the different angle. I think I've come up with a way that I can root for the Rams, and even almost as like the underdogs, because they have so many great veteran players who have never won a ring.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, I want these guys to get a ring. I'm cheering for the little guys that don't have a ring yet. The team from Los Angeles with the $400 million payroll somehow. That's plus. I mean, as you can see over my shoulder here, there's some Mahomes Magic Crunch. It was a lot this past week, and I'm just not really emotionally mature enough to be able to cheer for the team 2 weeks later that did that.
Yeah, but you should be finding Andy Reid and booing him because Andy Reid's the problem.
Andy Reid he's too good to boo.
I give it that he taketh away.
Like I said literally to someone earlier this season, the stupidest words that ever come out of my mouth. I think the game's kind of passed Andy Reid by because you get all these guys that are going for it on 4th down and he's kicking punts from the 40 on 4th and 3. These young
Andy just needs what Harbaugh did, right? Because Andy's still brilliant. I mean, everything he does offensively, scheming, all that stuff. He's a fantastic coach. He just needs to take game management out of his own hands. Like just hire someone else to go sit in the booth and just feed him game management decisions. Like just tell him when to challenge, when to call timeouts, when to go for it, when to kick. Just offload that from your responsibility because he can't be trusted with that.
The problem is I don't think we know which young coaches are sharp yet. Because a lot of
not McVay and Shanahan, that's for sure. McVay was like timeouts, get rid of those. Like, we don't want any.
I think the Rams are somehow minus 110 to use the first timeout this week. And they
should be minus $1 million
the first quarter without calling a timeout.
So I mean,
Kingsbury's not sharp.
I said that Sean McVay must be the leader of a Andy Reid cover band during that game because he was like he just could not. like Andy Reid, it's almost like Jameis Winston with the interceptions that year, where he just needed to throw a pick six on the first drive to get into the game. Like Andy Reid comes in there, and he's like, I got 3 timeouts burning a hole in my pocket. Like, we got to get rid of a couple here before I can get into the motion of the ocean.
See, at least Sean McVay like has somebody to hire, like that's hired to pull him off the field when he knows he's getting too aggressive. I feel like we're talking about the same sort of thing here. So let's go ahead and kick this show off. Let's go.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jakob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
So just give you guys a heads up, Dave is going to take care of all of the emotionally immature stuff so that we can actually be okay with Heath Cummings on the podcast. But let's go ahead and kick this one on. Welcome on into Dynasty Intervention. That's right. We're doing episode 3 of Dynasty Intervention for the 2022 season. Shane is very excited to be here with us, of course, doing that. And of course, we have Jakob down below. But we have a special guest in from CBS Sports. Drum roll, please. All right, we don't have a drum, so we don't have drum roll, but we have, thank you very much. We have Heath Cummings in from CBS Sports. Heath, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I mean, I'm just going to say, I'm doing my kind of show tour, January, February. I get to a point where I can breathe a little bit. I don't do any podcasts during the season, and so I'm just hitting as many as I can. Those were the most enjoyable first 5 minutes that I have spent with any show so far. So it's a lot of pressure because now you have a chance to be the most enjoyable show. Just don't run it.
Much like the roller coaster ride that is BC Public Transit, we're only going downhill.
No.
We're not going back into that. We're not touching that. So welcome on in, everybody. We have all sorts of, fun stuff going on. Of course, we're not just going to be talking about the dynasty aspect of everything, but
yes, we are. It's Dynasty Intervention.
But how these teams, dude, Shane, you're going to scare everybody off, okay? We're talking about how these teams can be affected, moving forward for your redraft leagues that you're going to be getting into in 7 months from now. So make sure you guys get out a notebook, write everything down because we know everything that's going to happen in advance. However, we're going to be talking primarily about the quarterback positions and whatnot today. We're going to be going through some of the change that could be happening, some of the drama that's going on. And we're going to start out with some of the news that's breaking. And pretty much it's going to start out with the Washington Commanders because that's the hot topic
I believe
today.
It's the Washington Commies, if you've checked.
Yeah, we have decided that the Commies, because it's just too easy. Like, really, the capital of our nation, and you pick the name that we can shorten the Commies. Like, clearly, that's a left-wing.
I don't know.
My favorite tweet was from their SB Nation account, which said that they want to rename Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick to Hammer and Sickle.
It was so close. It could have just been the Commandos, and you could have had Schwarzenegger in just full on camo as your fantastic.
So, obviously the name is.
I do like the W, though. I will say that. The W logo.
Really, out of all things, you like the W. You don't like the.
I think that actually should be their name, the Washington W's.
I think
they don't get W's.
Though, because how many times are they going to hear that's the only W you got?
It's 100% too much of a play on words.
I'm an Eagles fan, so I'm not used to having a bad team like Chase. So that didn't even cross my mind.
Don't even start.
Eagles have had one losing season in the last 20, according to my
that's because of Andy Reid, by the way, which you were talking about terribly in the pre-show.
Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. No, I was talking bad about Andy Reid because Andy Reid should have no less than 4 Super Bowl victories. He's got literally a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback on his roster and has single-handedly found a way to stop him from winning another Super Bowl, which is impressive because the league can't do it.
Well, Andy Reid's the nerve patch. Patrick Mahomes is overpowered, and Andy Reid is the Nerf patch.
Yeah.
Let's talk about we got the name. We got the name.
Okay. Like, we can't go too far with it because I don't think we got to rewind. Coming out, like before the Chiefs drafted him, Patrick Mahomes, I was very, very excited about because of the potential. But he was no sure thing coming out of college. And I do think that there's a possibility that he could have gone somewhere and just been ruined.
Well, I mean, at least we can credit like Matt Nagy with that because Matt Nagy's great at developing quarterbacks. I mean, he's the best at developing young quarterbacks, right? I mean, we talk about the quarterbacks he developed. It's Patrick Mahomes,
Mitch,
future New York Giants starter Mitchell Trubisky.
Yes. So let's talk about the uniforms real quick. We don't need to spend a bunch of time on this, but I mean, which one is y'all's favorite? Which one is the absolute trash worst? Me being a Washington fan, I hate the red and white, not because of the fact that they changed the colors, but I just think it looks like the all-pro uniforms from 2002 where they did the fade-in, fade-out type color scheme, and it looks just...
No one knows what you're talking about. This is not the Washington football team show.
Yeah, this isn't the Washington intervention, all right?
Get out of here, all right? The uniforms are terrible for the most part. Heath, do you have a take on the uniforms?
I don't know that I have any uniform take.
Okay.
You know what I'm thinking now, though?
I do have one uniform take. I think uniforms just progressively get worse. Like, we all like the uniforms for the most part from anytime they wear the retro uniforms, like, oh, that's so cool. I think they just keep getting worse.
Well, that take will appeal to Shane because he's the resident boomer of the podcast.
My children remind me.
I think that the uniforms are generally getting better, but I think these uniforms are total crap. The only one that I don't dislike that much is the red one with the yellow letters, just because I think the burgundy slaps. However, I hate uniforms where they write things on the shirt, like the Commanders. It's just too busy for me. It feels like you're advertising something. So that bothers me. And the black ones are an abomination to me. They use a ripoff of the font that the Steelers put in their end zone. And then they made it black and yellow. So it just looks like an alternate Steelers uniform. And also it looks like the Arizona Sun Devils. I don't know. That one bothers me, but.
I think now that I've had more time to reflect upon this, I think they should have used the Wu-Tang Clan W and fought it out with the Wu-Tang Clan over that W.
I have a question for you, Shane. Did you take more time to reflect on what you just said, or did the NFL take more time to reflect on Brian Flores' legal claim?
I took way more time.
Moving on to the quarterback news. We have Tom Brady's retirement coming in here. And Tom Brady, obviously, people have been, giving their praises, talking about how great he's been, what they've been, to his life. Meanwhile, the people have been hating on how, he's dominated their entire conference or their entire division for the past few years. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. I want to discuss more about the implications coming up for the NFC and more in particular the NFC South. So we have a team that is now starving for quarterbacks, division that's starting for quarterbacks as a whole. We have a conference that's starving for quarterbacks. In fact, Matt Ryan, who played horribly last year, is now the best quarterback, ?
No.
Yes.
Hold on. Let's start out with Heath on this one because Heath, obviously you're going to be the tiebreaker because I already know what both these guys are going to say. Who is the best quarterback in this division? And
now,
which ones are you rolling with? Yes, right now.
Matt Ryan by 6 million miles. Who are the other quarterbacks in the division right now?
Trevor Siemian.
Taysom Hill, Sam Darnold.
Jameis Winston counts, I guess, if you wanted to.
Is Cam already a free agent, or is he still in the division?
Does it matter? Is Cam your answer?
I think he's second for sure.
Aaron Rodgers is technically still a Green Bay Packer.
Not the conference.
That's the NFC North, Shane.
Oh, the NFC North. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Matt Ryan by a million miles.
Shane, would you like a lesson in longitude and latitude?
It won't help.
Honestly, for the NFC East, that can't.
Never eat soggy wieners, okay?
Dallas is in the East Coast of the America, by the way, because Dallas is in the NFC East.
Sorry, I'm backing this up. This is more pressing than this quarterback discussion. In America, is the saying "never eat soggy wheat"? Is that true?
No.
For your Northeast, Southwest, it's definitely wieners.
I don't know what you're talking about right now. It's not football related. Are you having a stroke?
No, okay. So when you were taught directions in school, northeast, west, and south, or northeast, south,
It
and
wasn't
west,
that direction.
in the order that they went,
Right.
how were you taught?
The north, east,
Right,
south,
but
west.
were you not given like a fun phrase to remember them by?
No.
Like
I
when you
don't
did
know
order
that
of
before,
operations,
I
like
never eat
please
soggy
excuse my
wieners
dear
as a
Aunt
fun
Sally.
phrase.
All right, we are getting
I just-
sidetracked way too much. Let's backtrack.
This is
a
what
little.
the audience wants. This is
Yes,
the discussion
Matt-
the audience needs
Hey,
to hear. They need to
and
hear us
people
talk
in the
about
chat,
soggy wieners.
people in the chat, if you had an acronym right for Northeast, Southwest, like which one did you actually hear? We'll pull it up on the screen
Never eat
for which one
soggy
you used. If
wieners.
it's, I bet you anything Dave comes up and says never eat soggy wieners for sure.
I hope
He's
so.
From Toronto, but. Anyways, for Matt Ryan, I mean, is there any guarantee that he's actually going to return to this division next year? I know the salary cap issue is pretty, massive, and it feels like the Falcons constantly want to compete, but they're never good enough to compete outside of the one season they went to the Super Bowl. So, is Matt Ryan going to be one of those guys that sticks on and is going to be in this division for 2022?
I'm going to go with yes, only because I think when they drafted Kyle Pitts last year, when they could have gone quarterback, they showed you that Matt Ryan's going to be for at least 2 more years when they restructured his deal. His salary cap, because I lived through the Carson Wentz era in Philadelphia, his salary cap hit really isn't that bad. If they were to move on from him, as we've seen, teams will move on from $25 million cap hits. But where are they going to move to is my problem.
Right?
Yeah, I was looking at his post-June cap hit, so I'm thinking June 1st cap hit, because I always assume
it's $42 million.
They're gonna, but after June 1st, if they have a wink and a nod agreement, like, oh no, we just traded him on June 2nd, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But I don't see him. I don't see him leaving. I think they want to compete this year.
Yeah, I think both the Arthur Smith's current team and his former team would like to start over at quarterback, and both have contract situations where they're going to have to hold on to their quarterbacks for 1 more year.
All right, so let's bring up the Saints. I mean, the Saints are another team that's strapped with cap situations. What are they going to do with quarterback? Are they going to bring back Jameis Winston? Is Taysom Hill going to restructure? I think they already restructured Taysom Hill's contract. If not,
Yeah, Taysom Hill actually is now being paid in blood.
Yeah. The problem with Taysom Hill's contracts is every time he signs them, they void. Because it's like, oh, it's a 3-year, $150 million deal, but it's voided immediately. And you're like, I don't understand anything that's happening right now. They are $71 million under the cap. I just did a write-up on them, so I know this. If they can easily get under the cap. They just need to restructure / extend 18 contracts.
Which they're very good at.
They are.
Debatably. It's Kai Harley over there.
Really cheap to the team that trades for him, right?
Who? I'm sorry.
Garoppolo is really cheap for the team that trades for him, I think.
Not really, but cheap.
What is it, 20?
Well, so maybe I'm wrong with this, but in my understanding is that if you trade for a player, like you get more real dollar relief than you get cap relief. Like I think you still have to take on quite a substantial cap hit, even if the other team is also eating some portion of the dead cap. But
well, no, and this is because this is what happened last year. Jared Goff and Carson Wentz got traded, and their former teams ate that cap. Like they just ate it. The Eagles had $30 million in cap that they kept.
It's part of the restructuring concept that they have in place where they can eat part of the cap, but I think that's essentially dead money that they would be eating versus what they would get traded for. That team still has to take on an X amount of those dollars. It started with the Joe Flacco era when he got traded over to the Denver Broncos, I believe, and that's when they really realized there was a giant loophole in that area. However, you're still going to see a $20 million cap hit likely for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, I'm looking at Jimmy. I'm assuming Spotrack's numbers are correct because everybody in fantasy football goes to them. And looking at the contract, unless I got the year wrong, I also believe it's 2022. Looks like they could release him and save if they just wanted to. The dead cap's $1.4 million.
Yeah, they can release him and save everything, but if they trade him,
no,
same thing. If they trade him, it doesn't matter. But it's a new team that takes on part of the contract. That is what we're talking about, right? The team that trades for that quarterback. So that the team that trades for that quarterback is likely going to see at least $20 million minimum for the acquisition of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Well, $20 million for a starting quarterback is
still great.
pretty relatively cheap. I'd assume Jimmy G, because I am a finance expert. I assume Jimmy G is going to sign. They're going to do a sign and trade deal for him. I don't want him in New Orleans. I want him. I don't even like Jimmy G, but I think he deserves better than that.
Ugh.
Either way, the Saints would have to literally restructure everybody in order to make this happen.
No.
So
just 18 people.
Just 18. Sorry.
18. They're fine, and they can't re-sign Teron Armstead.
So let's hop on real quick to the Panthers. Did the Panthers seize this opportunity? Did their defense step up? Is the coaching, possibly improved a little bit? I'm actually a Panthers fan. I love their defense. I love the direction of the team. I didn't love.
You're a Washington fan.
I'd love to see what happened with the Panthers as the season started. However, it went downhill very quick. I think this is a division that's going to look like the AFC South, similar, but where you don't have a team that's ready to win it. So any team is pretty much up in there. You could also say NFC East, by the way. But do the Panthers have an opportunity to take this over? We'll start out with Heath.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the quarterback position. Like, if they can go get one of the 2 or 3 big names, and they're probably one of the teams that has the number of assets to be able to make that happen. I think so far the bigger problem has been getting the quarterbacks to waive them on the no trade list. Doesn't seem like anybody yet wants to go to Carolina.
Yeah.
So that might be the bigger obstacle. But yeah, I absolutely think with their roster, if they could go land one of the top 3 quarterbacks who might be available, I guess we'll say Rodgers, Wilson, Watson, then 100%. It sounds like they're one of 4 or 5 teams that are going to make every effort.
I mean, I think Watson might have to do some deep personal reflection as to his list because, right now, sounds like he wanted to go to Miami. It doesn't sound like Miami wants him at the moment. But, you never know what'll happen with the Eagles, but Watson didn't want to go to the Eagles before either. Maybe Denver, but there might not be. I don't know what the abundance of options is on Watson with teams' interest, not just in a quarterback. I mean, every team would be interested in a quarterback of his caliber, but some teams might not be as interested with the situation around him. Carolina seems like they give no fucks, honestly. So they seem quite willing to go after him. I think that he might want to consider that option. I'm not sure why people are so out on Carolina. I mean, I think from the team perspective, they're quite well set up. If you get a quarterback in there, they have DJ Moore. They have decent enough options behind him. They have McCaffrey, of course. They have really a really budding, strong defense. I guess maybe just people don't want to live in Charlotte. I'm not sure. I've never been to Charlotte. It seems like a nice enough place. But yeah, I think they're going to try and find someone. I don't think that they're running it back with Sammy Darnold, that's for sure. But maybe it'll end up being a Jimmy G.
Which would be a vast improvement on Sam Darnold. But, I mean, it obviously would not be Aaron Rodgers.
No.
And obviously, Toronto Dave has to weigh in and let you know that he is underage. So
yeah, we've never once sworn on this show before. That's the first time.
I thought we were trying to keep it respectable since we had a respectable guest for once, but apparently not.
You have a respectable guest on later?
Apparently, we're just tossing out F-bombs.
Hey,
right?
I think he started it earlier. Just saying. So Tampa, right? They're up. With a really terrible situation as to where Kyle Trask could be the starting quarterback for the Buccaneers.
I mean, there's a clear dream scenario here.
Aaron Rodgers?
I don't know why there's not a hashtag. The Tampa Bay doesn't have the assets, and even if they did, I don't think Green Bay would send them to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, no.
The clear, we need a hashtag right now. Bring Jameis home.
Love it.
Bring Jameis home. Yeah. Bring Chris Godwin back. Get the band back together. 5,000, 30 and 30. It's great for fantasy. It's entertaining. It's great drama.
I think Bruce Arians might be a little bit too old for this. He might end up having a heart attack halfway through.
Well, that's how Byron Leftwich gets his head coaching job.
Oh, maybe.
So,
do you guys watch Yellowstone?
No,
I've seen commercials for it.
I think that analogy doesn't work, but they sent Jameis off for a year to a different teacher to teach him how to be careful with the ball, and now he's going to come back, throw it deep, and be careful with the ball.
They could make an ESPN 30 for 30 on this, and then they would call it 30 for 30. with his touchdowns and his picks.
Stop. So the issue is with this point, like, is they only let Jameis throw 30, 35 times a game. Bruce Arians can be like, oh, go up there and chuck it, 50 times.
Yeah.
And that's where the interceptions come in, because he just gets so reckless.
Awesome.
Well,
What do you mean the issue? It's pretty aggressive.
But it's not like Jameis was like fine for the first 25 passes that year. Like it's the first, and then it was the final 15 where he just was like 5 of the interceptions just occurred. Like, coach, I told you.
Yeah. Anything you usually started every game with a pick six.
One was OJ Howard for sure. I'm just saying. One was on OJ Howard.
Yeah, he seemed he seemed to play more within himself in what do you call that place? New Orleans. And he was fairly efficient last year. He wasn't spectacular, but he also was throwing to Deontay Harris and some other guys.
Marquez Callaway, the GOAT.
The second round draft pick you were getting in dynasty leagues. People were all over him. No, dude, you got to get him. You don't understand.
He's the best preseason player of all time.
Okay, guys. Put Jameis back. Jameis with new eyes. Like he said, he's got a new mindset. And I'm hoping Arians is gone because he's a fraud anyway, and I don't like him. But also, I hope Arians.
You like
is
any
gone.
coach, Shane? Is there any coach you like? You don't like Arians. You don't like Andy Reid. You don't like McVay.
Yeah, he's too good looking. I mean, that's not fair.
Andy Reid isn't too good looking. That can't be the issue with him.
I'm an Eagles fan. There's lots of hurt there. You lose in the conference championship.
But
at
see,
home.
that's my problem with sports fans. Is there was so much more joy that Andy Reid gave you. You won like 70% of the time that you watched a football team that Andy Reid coached. You watched them win, and you were happy when it was over. And you're talking about the pain. Think of all the joy that he gave you.
Shane's never happy. He's never happy.
I would have taken 58% winning if just some of those wins were like,
important wins,
conference championships or Super Bowls.
You went to 4 straight conference championships.
Nothing like it. Nothing like it.
That's why we call it the Final Four.
Exactly. Just we weren't even good enough to be the Buffalo Bills.
And every single one of those nights, Shane fell asleep crying in his bathtub because they ended up coming out losing. But the question is did Andy Reid win rock, paper, scissors, on multiple occasions? And I don't think that's the case. So let's hop in to these millennial quarterbacks, because we're moving on from, a generation of quarterbacks who are likely done. I mean, we mentioned Matt Ryan earlier,
Shane's
right?
generation of quarterbacks.
Shane's generation of quarterbacks. We have Aaron Rodgers. Fitz is done. I mean, we have multiple quarterbacks in their 30s who are likely out. We look at like Kirk Cousins, who might have a starting job, Russell Wilson, and who will likely have a starting job.
Why does everyone want Kirk Cousins so much? Everybody wants Kirk Cousins to go
away. Said that he would probably have a starting job.
Quarterback 1 numbers every year in fantasy.
I love Kirk Cousins.
QB13, and everybody just wants to poop all over him.
No, I
would not.
I would never, unless he's like Odell and that's what he wants, then I would do it. But I love Kirk Cousins. I have a Kirk Cousins jersey. I respect the heck out of Captain Kirk Cousins. And I would never tolerate any sort of Kirk Cousins slander.
Anyways, we have Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, and Matthew Stafford. These are likely the only quarterbacks that will most probably have a job that are above the age of 30, 28 years old or so, right? So we have a brand new generation of quarterbacks coming in. But I want to know, first off, is there anybody younger than the age of 26 or so that could kind of bridge this gap? Are we going to be looking at all these young kids coming out who, have gotten the training that they needed in high school and in college to be able to just dominate some of these older quarterbacks? Or are these quarterbacks going to be able to stick around that are in that mid-range? As opposed
to Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow and Deshaun Watson, who are all under the age of 26?
Yeah, are we going to see these next few drafts? We're going to see this next generation of quarterbacks essentially just wipe out what we saw similar to 2004, 2007 range, where these quarterbacks just came in and pretty much wiped out the Drew Blitzos of the world, etc.
That's kind of the natural law of evolution, isn't it? The old die and then the young take over.
But what I'm saying is there was nobody in that mid-range, right, that actually stuck around. They essentially wiped out the dinosaurs, and then we saw all these young kids come in. Are we looking at another generational pull of these young, stud athletes at the quarterback?
I'm not sure what you're talking about, to be honest.
I want to move on from this topic because I don't like it.
Is what you're saying is that there's no one between 26 to 31? Is that what you're saying?
Is that what
Even
you're saying?
like 26 to 35 that will essentially like stick around
decade.
in the NFL. That's what I'm saying. Do we have these quarterbacks, right? Did you guys look at the
do we have a mid-range?
Kirk Cousins, Russell
Dak.
Wilson, Ryan Tannehill.
I'm gonna look
Dak.
at this
That's
show.
there you go.
Dak's one.
Dak's guy.
Dak is one.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. I have the
anybody
privilege of
bridge?
rooting for Carson Wentz all year. He seems like a franchise guy.
Stop. Shane has his own opinion on him as well. So, I mean, but seriously,
a
like,
4-year deal in Tampa will be good.
I mean, you just named five out of the 32 quarterbacks, right?
Yep.
And then there's, I don't know, roughly, I'm not great with math, 15 quarterbacks that are under the age of 24 between that are already in the league now and that are going to be drafted in this year and then 2023. So,
and then Kenny Pickett has been starting at Pittsburgh since 2004.
he comes into the league at
he'll come into the
27.
league as a 32-year-old rookie.
There you go. So there's your mid-range guy. There's your mid-age guy, Kenny Pickett, when he
might
started
have
for the
another
Steelers
Brandon
next
Weeden
year.
situation.
Yeah.
No, but all right. So I guess what I meant was, are we going to see these other quarterbacks who are just mid-range guys outside of maybe Russell Wilson be able to compete with some of these younger guys with their current teams? Are they going to be able to make it to the playoffs? Are we going to see the majority of the playoff teams be run by some of these studs, these young studs, I should say?
No, I think a majority of the playoff teams are going to be 26 or younger.
I mean, we saw it back in around the same range from 2004 or so, where we saw Eli and Ben Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers and all these young guys come in and pretty much run the playoffs for the next 10 years.
There are two ways you build a winning team right now in the NFL. We've seen this over the last while. You either have an elite quarterback or you have a quarterback on a rookie deal, and ideally both. But how you don't win is having a okay to above average quarterback making 80% of the cap hit of the elite quarterbacks. You just can't compete that way. You're getting replacement level play and you're pushing way too much pressure on the rest of your roster. I mean, we saw San Francisco get about as close as you can get this year doing that, but they had the benefit of Deebo Samuel on a rookie deal still, who's possibly the best player in the NFL. They still had Nick Bosa, who is one of the best defensive players in the NFL, still on his rookie deal. And unless you're hitting at a really high level on rookie contract superstars across the rest of your roster, which just is hard to do, then you really need either that elite quarterback play that elevates you, or you have the quarterback on the rookie deal like a Mac Jones. In best case scenario, you're the Bengals, where you have an elite quarterback on a rookie deal in Joe Burrow, right? Then you have the best of both worlds. So yeah, I think these teams, especially in the AFC, right, where you have Burrow and Herbert and Mahomes and Allen and Lamar. I mean, if you're the Titans, with Tannehill, if you're the Colts with Wentz, if you're the Browns with Baker, like you seriously have to look in the mirror and say, okay, we're bringing a knife to a gunfight here. And are we really seeing a path forward where we can get by with mediocre quarterback play? I think it's going to be difficult.
Shane, are you in the same boat? Do you think that we're going to see Jalen Hurts bring the
Shane's
Eagles?
so done with this question.
I don't even like this topic. I just want to move on.
All right. We can move on just for you. All right. So,
the premise of the question is, are young stud quarterbacks good, basically?
No,
Yeah.
Are they going to dominate over the veterans? Because we've seen a mix of veterans over the previous few years, such as Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, etc., continually dominate the playoffs.
We haven't even mentioned in this entire conversation one of the guys who's starting in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Matt Stafford.
Like Stafford's right in that group, right? A year older, I think, than Russ.
Is Matt Stafford elite now?
Well, that's the question.
Yes,
if he's not,
he always
that
has been.
Ruins the two-path thing Jacob said.
I think he is elite. I think Stafford is elite.
$400 billion spent on the salary cap somehow.
So there is that path where you basically are committing fraud somehow against the salary cap, and you're just like, I don't care what the hit is. We don't need rookie picks. We don't need timeouts.
Which is kind of what Tampa did last year. Like nobody could understand how Tampa could have all those additions.
So it's not sustainable, right? We've seen that, I think, in Tampa. We see like, all right, it's done after 2 years. I wonder how long it's going to be sustainable in LA, because they can't afford to bring anyone back. You know what I mean? Like unless Odell, well, maybe he does. He comes back on a minimum contract. And who's the defender they got? Von Miller. Yeah, unless he comes back on a minimum contract, which maybe they'll do because they've gotten paid and they're just like, I like winning titles. But yeah,
They
maybe
gotta
that
feel
is
like the NBA. If they have their bird rights and they could just extend like 80 million past the cap because they have everybody's bird rights.
Look, so I'm going to equate this to dynasty football, man. If you've got the chips to go all in and win a title, I'm going to go all in, win a title, and I'll worry about next year. And, I'm not going to orphan the team or anything. I'm not going to be like saying, all right, guys, I got no picks left. And I won the title, so I've proven all I needed to. I'm out.
No,
But-
what you do is you post a message in Sleeper at all, cutting down on my leagues this offseason. Sorry, guys, it's been a blast. I'll do my best to find a replacement. And then you go to Twitter 48 hours later. Hey, guys, new $50 startup. Anyone want to join?
Heath, let me ask you this, because this is boring me. How many dynasty leagues are you in?
This is a good question.
It is. It's not bad.
7? I think 7.
How many redraft?
Last year, we're not. Some of my best ball leagues, it's really hard for me to tell whether I'm counting them or not because we have waiver ads.
We never. Oh, you have waiver ads.
Oh, if you have waiver ads, you count it.
It's head-to-head
Yeah,
best ball instead of
you gotta
points.
You got to
That
count
counts.
that.
So yeah, but somewhere around 17, I think I had right around 25 teams that I had to do something at some point or another during the season.
I don't mind the best ball though. Like even if you're making trades, waiver ads, stuff like that, I don't mind it as much.
Oh, there's my really about my favorite league the last couple of years has been a best ball league that John Bosch started, and it's called Auction Addicts, and it's salary cap drafts all the way through, like anything, and it's also best ball, but it has waiver additions and it has victory points and head to head. So, best ball dynasty I think is about my favorite way to play.
So I was actually
I
in
love
that
baseball
league.
dynasty.
I was in that league the first year because I go, man, I don't like best ball, but there's lots of cool people in this league, so I'm going to join it because that'll make me enjoy it. And after 1 year, I was like, John, I love you. I hate best ball. I can't do this anymore.
See, I love best ball dynasty because the best parts of dynasty are drafting in the startup, drafting in the rookie draft, making trades, and the worst part is going through on Sunday morning and setting all your lineups because you joined way too many freaking leagues because you like doing all the startups and making all the trades. So adding the best ball dynasty lets me do all of the parts I like about dynasty and then not have to worry about all the parts that I hate. The only bad thing is that it's such a serene existence that I don't realize how horrible my team is. Whereas the art of going through your team and being like, oh, this week I'm starting Wayne Gallman at RB2. That makes me go, oh, shoot, I need to trade for a running back. Whereas in best ball, it's just like, oh, yeah, that team's probably fine.
See, I enjoy the pain of setting rosters. I enjoy reading all the matchup articles. I enjoy consuming content, you know what I mean? And thinking I'm getting an edge and listening to 87 podcasts and also secretly subscribing to every beat writer on Twitter, only to make the wrong decision anyway and going, I should have just went with my gut. There's something perverse about that. I do enjoy because I also, there's the opposite spectrum of that. When you make the right calls, when you look at your lineup and you go, oh, this was optimal. Like my bench scored 3 points. Like, you know what I mean? Like I like that feeling. I kind of like that. That's why I could never get into best ball like that.
I can get that in redraft, in dynasty, especially like when I build, because I'm really big on in a dynasty league, I do not want to be in the middle. And so if I'm in the middle, I'm going to sell draft picks and go compete, or I'm going to sell pieces and go rebuild. But so when I've built a good team, it's generally a really deep, good team. And setting a lineup is just torture every single week. You're leaving points on the bench. The best fantasy football projections that week are probably going to leave points on the bench. You get 6 running backs and 7 wide receivers, and you can only start 8 of them or something. So I really appreciate best ball in the dynasty context.
Okay, so I'm old.
I cannot wait for best ball season, by the way, coming up.
It's already here, buddy. The
It's right
2022
here. It's right
tournament already launched.
Did it win?
Launched today on Underdog.
I checked it around like 12 o'clock. I must have
like best ball doesn't. It's like immediate. They're like, guess what, guys? It's like it's time to hit the crack cocaine again.
So if you sign up on Underdog, make sure you guys use promo code Fantasy Intervention, and you'll actually receive a free deposit bonus. But let's go ahead and transition into the quarterback carousel for this year.
Oh, I
Because
thought
we
moved
already
away from
talked.
that.
Nope, we're going right back. We have section
Which
one.
quarterbacks between the age of 33 and 34.5 born with moon sign Sagittarius and
So we have currently 4 teams that are like 100% need a quarterback. Right? So essentially, like, these teams are, don't you delete that, Shane, I swear to God. So we have 4 teams that need to either resign their starter. They're going to need a quarterback regardless. We have the Broncos, the Saints, the Buccaneers, and the Steelers. So these teams, right?
I like talk to Heath more about his dynasty leagues. See,
Yeah,
you don't. Do you enjoy Superflex or single QB more?
Oh my God, Shane!
Shane and Chase are just actively at war.
What's up, Heath? So, real quick, let's go ahead and have this conversation before we lose all of our listeners, because we've been bleeding listeners for about the past 5 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. So, real quick, we do have these 4 teams, right? The Broncos are most likely not bringing back Teddy Bridgewater. The Saints are in shambles. The Buccaneers and the Steelers, they 100% need to bring back their starters. Meanwhile, we have the Section 2, which are the 5 teams that, should bring in competition, to say the least. We have the Giants, Commanders, the Lions, the Texans, and the Panthers. And then meanwhile, we have Section 3, which, by the way, we're going to revisit all of these teams as well. But these are the 5 teams who can be left with their pants down, once the free agency rolls around, and they are left with pretty much nothing. So, starting with Section 1, which, once again, is the Broncos, Saints, Buccaneers, and Steelers. Which team is most likely to get fixed this offseason when it comes to the quarterback position?
I think it has to be the Broncos, just because, in theory, they have a great set of weapons that are only in need of a great quarterback, and they just went and hired Aaron Rodgers, offensive coordinator, and they've been connected. I think that probably it's likely both Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson would waive their no trade to go to Denver because of the weapons they'd be working with. So the stars are kind of aligned. Now, I don't think anybody's going to make it easy on them. And the most likely scenario is only one of those 3 quarterbacks actually ends up being available to them at some point. And they're going to have to decide whether they want to go really, really all in.
Have you guys ever been to Denver?
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lovely place. First of all, legal weed. Second of all, lovely mountains. Third of all, no one, I think, works. Whenever you're there, people are just running through parks and streets
sounds a lot like
in like some form of yoga clothing, at like 11 a.m. And it's like, do you have a job? Do you do anything? It seems not. It seems like people just jog for a living.
How's the public transit in comparison?
Oh, it's great. You can get on what's called the flat iron flyer.
You get on skylifts.
From the downtown station.
Yeah.
Union Station in Denver is lovely. It's an architectural marvel. And you get on what's called the Flatiron Flyer. It's like an hour. You take you straight to Boulder. You get anywhere you need to go. It's terrific transportation. Point is, Denver is a great place to be. Aaron Rodgers is into all sorts of homeopathic remedies. They have all the hippie shit you need in Denver, Colorado. And I think that's a great place for him. And the best part of it for me is that in the dynasty market, this is, of course, dynasty intervention when we want it to be. Everyone has been decided. The Council of Elders has decided that Jerry Jeudy is the only player who gets to have a value bump in anticipation of Aaron Rodgers' arrival. Cortland Sutton's left for dead. Noah Fant sliding down the ranks. Tim Patrick doesn't exist, even though he's probably their best receiver. Jerry Jeudy's the only one. And then the best part is he's going to get traded to Green Bay in the Rodgers trade and going to catch passes from Jordan Love. And then Fant and Sutton and wide receiver 1 Tim Patrick get to enjoy the beauty of Aaron Rodgers.
I was going to say Heath likes Tim Patrick. He was looking into some of this today.
No, honestly, I don't. Because the world would make a lot more sense if Tim Patrick was not better than Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. But all statistical evidence that we have from the past 2 seasons of football games is that Tim Patrick's better than Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. And the real problem with that is that if Tim Patrick doesn't totally go away, then Sutton and Jeudy don't have much chance of being good, no matter who the quarterback is, the way they've been used and the way they've performed.
Shane, I know you want to add to this. I know you're dying right now.
I like when teams make long-term fixes, right? So I want them to go back in time and draft Justin Fields or Mac Jones because they can't. Well, guess what? They sucked last year too, so now they get another chance to draft a quarterback. I hope they draft Matt Corral, and I hope that he's good. I don't know that they will because they have invested about $250 million in their wide receiver core. So I'm not sure they want to give that to a rookie quarterback. Either way, just do something, man. Just if you get a rookie quarterback or get Aaron Rodgers, just do it.
Another great landing spot for Jameis.
Jameis could land anywhere. I'm fine with Jameis anywhere except New Orleans. I want no quarterback that I like.
No,
there.
No,
I'm a huge fan of
start Taysom Hill.
Yeah, that's fine. Like
Exactly.
That's what Taysom Hill deserves. Like, okay, you want it to be a starting quarterback.
Hire Greg Roman as the head coach. Start Taysom Hill. Run the Ravens offense. Give him 180 carries a game.
Yeah, awesome.
And
bring in Tyler Huntley as the backup.
Love it.
Draft, or you can. I think Hayden Hurst is a free agent. You can bring him in. Roman knows him.
Yeah.
Play tight end.
Tom would be so excited. My buddy who I podcast with on Tuesdays in Chase is the start shit show. Start shit show.
It's pretty much a start shit show.
That should be what you should call it. Actually, is the start shit show.
We do, but we don't actually title it that. So
anyway, yeah, he hates Greg Roman. Big Ravens fan, hates Greg Roman with a passion. Every time we bring up anywhere else, he's always like, and they should hire away Greg Roman. And it would be his dream.
So out of the Broncos, the Saints, the Buccaneers, and the Steelers, which ones are stuck in purgatory moving forward? Because obviously the Buccaneers, they've got about 50 free agents essentially like over the next 2 or 3 years. We have the Saints who, are in cap hell. The Broncos who, if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, they could be stuck for multiple years because they're going to have to re-sign some big-time future free agents for 2023. And then we have the Steelers who don't have an offensive line. They're in cap hell. Their defense is aging to an extent. Like, what are we looking at, Heath, over here?
I am concerned about the future of all of these teams. I would say the Saints the most. Tampa Bay is kind of a place where I have a really hard time seeing them not land one of the veterans.
Yeah.
I just don't think Bruce Arians is going to be patient enough to start a young quarterback. So if they don't want Jameis back, they have to know they don't have enough assets to get the really good quarterbacks. I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay goes and trades for Jimmy, especially if the price drops just a little bit. Because that's a veteran quarterback that Arians might think that he could win with. I figure they will be competitive. I don't think the Steelers are going to be very good at all. So probably the Steelers and Saints would be the two I'd be most worried about.
I think getting older
the
and
problem
older.
with the problem with the Steelers, I think, is that I don't think they're ever going to admit to themselves that they need to bottom out. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you're an alcoholic, you need to realize at some point that's how you hit rock bottom. You're like, okay, like I was just drinking cologne because I couldn't find any liquor in the house. So I started drinking cologne and you're like, all right, this is rock bottom. I don't think the Steelers will hit that until or know that they're about to hit that. The Saints are going to be so bad this year that they're going to luck into a high draft pick.
Oh, they just had to cut 18 contracts.
Well, so they're not going to. I can't imagine that's a good team. Just offensively,
yeah.
I see no way that they could be a good team. So they're going to end up with a good pick next year. See, that's the beautiful thing about football, right? It's like nature. It takes care of itself, heals itself, right? These teams could be terrible this year, and this is a great year to be terrible when you need a quarterback, because in 2023, a bunch of good quarterbacks coming into the league again.
All right, so we have the section 2, right, where we have these teams who
section 2. I feel like I'm at like the DMV. It's like you got section 1 of a form. I've got section 2, schedule K.
You two and your analogies, like we just need to actually have like clips of your analogies going through each episode. But we have these teams that should bring in competition minimum. Where we talk about the Giants, Commanders, Lions, Texans, Panthers, which I mentioned earlier. Does one player currently with the organization have a chance to break out with their team? We'll start out with Heath once again on this one. Is there a certain player for the Giants, Commanders, Lions, Texans, or Panthers that you think has a chance, like Davis Mills, possibly Taylor Heinicke, anything?
You've given me that list of names 3 times now. And every time you've said Commanders, I just lost track of anything else. Yeah, who the hell the Commanders are?
Hashtag take command.
Oh, so WFT for the next few episodes. I feel like I should.
The football team from Washington.
Football team.
No, I don't think anybody on the football team is breaking out. Daniel Jones is big and wasn't very good coming into the NFL, so maybe Brian Dable could do the same thing he did with Josh Allen. But probably not. I think Jones has had enough time. Nobody on the Panthers for sure. And you're going to have to give me the other names again because I just thought of
Texans, the Lions, every team that sucks. Yeah, every hopeless team.
So you don't like David Blau from Detroit?
I don't necessarily like.
I'm more of a Tim Boyle guy.
This will be maybe controversial, but I think of all those teams, Jared Goff is the best quarterback.
And I think that he has
the
the best
Lions
potential.
somehow brought Chris Godwin in, or brought in a number. Like, there's some wide receivers out there that are going to be free agents. If he had Hawkinson,
Case, are you like standing for Jared Goff? What's
DeAndre
happening?
Swift? I think Goff could be good again.
My only concern with Goff is he's already had a ton of offensive weapons and wasn't really able to
had a good
produce
year.
with them. He had a good year, and then Sean McVay 2 years later was like, "I will eat
But
every
that's one
salary
more
cap
than
in
the
the league."
quarterbacks from all those other teams, right?
Yeah. I mean, those other teams are really bad. Like, there's no hope. Like when you say, and I guess it is like on a curve. Like you're like, well, Jared Goff is the best, but he's like the tallest midget. Yeah, because Davis Mills.
Hey, they're called little people.
Little people.
Davis Mills did not have a bad season, by the way.
No, he did. No, he did. There's like a weird world out there. People think Davis Mills did well. I mean, if you look deeper into the PFF, into the efficiency grades, he grades out quite badly. He made it look rosy with the stats, but
Kirk Cousins in his rookie year was terrible. And, we talk about these late round draft picks, they need to be developed. And he did not have the right coaching staff in place, although he did better. He exceeded expectations for what he was giving. And Davis Mills does have an opportunity. I mean, when your best receiver is Brandon Cooks and then Nico Collins, maybe, arguably, Danny Amendola.
I'm sorry, weren't you touting Nico Collins before the
What
year?
is your level of confidence that he is going to have the right coaches this year? Or next year? Or
Forever. Yeah.
my level of confidence is very high. It's just that the answer is no. I think
he's Gardner Minshew, but better when it comes to his abilities, when it comes to his talent level.
This is boring me again, but let me ask you this. So how scared are you for Trevor Lawrence, considering what the Jags are doing?
Very, very, very scared because he was he didn't have any help this year, but we just think that Marvin Jones completely fell off a cliff and Laviska Shenault is just terrible. And everybody who called plays and tried to run anything in Jacksonville is to blame. And Trevor Lawrence isn't getting hardly any of the blame. And that's my problem in Dynasty is his price hasn't really fallen. Everybody's like, well, it was Urban Meyer. He didn't have any wide receivers. I don't know that his situation is going to be a lot better this year either. And if they do improve the weapons around him, then he's probably going to get hit 14 times a game. I think he's definitely in the danger zone. I mean, Zach Wilson's more in the danger zone. I'm more think it's more likely he's not going to be good. I still think Lawrence can be better than Davis Mills. But he's in the danger zone as far as guys that were drafted, and we instantly just made top 12 dynasty quarterbacks.
I mean, the difference is at least Wilson's opportunity cost is either old dudes or question marks, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're taking Zach Wilson, you're taking him at the expense of either like an Aaron Rodgers, for instance, who is a short-term duct tape solution for your dynasty team, or you're going into Tua Tagovailoa, where I would say his upside and long-term certainty is also very much in question. You're looking maybe a little bit below once you get into like the Carson, it's Zach Wilson's kind of your last stop. I guess maybe the Tannehills, Derek Carrs, whatever, that tier, right? The guys who aren't game changers. But with Lawrence, you're sacrificing quite the opportunity cost. If you're taking him in a startup, you're sacrificing potentially, AJ Browns and CeeDee Lambs and DK Metcalfs. You're sacrificing just a quarterback, Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, those guys are probably going to have multiple years of QB1 production moving forward. Or in the exact same draft class, Trey Lance, who runs a heck of a lot and has significantly better organizational stability than Trevor Lawrence. So I'm going to just steal directly from Adam Harstad, who talks about the mulligan year that a lot of rookies get. And it usually applies to wide receivers. But you're generally granted, as long as you don't totally shit the bed, and quarterbacks even can shit the bed often, sort of a free year where we have very low expectations. You get to do whatever you want. And even if you stink, we're still going to just value the same next year because you're young and you make some cool throws. But if he sucks again, like he's burning through the mulligan, and similar to Shane on the golf course, who might look pretty in a golf skirt, I'm going to show up to him and say, hey, out of mulligans, you're chump. Write down the 8 on your scorecard. And I could see people getting stuck with the bag on Trevor Lawrence. Shane's perplexed at how I wrap that up. He's just Chase's mesmerized.
If I can get anything approaching what I put out for Trevor Lawrence, I am immediately slamming accept. If I could get a little bit less than I paid to acquire him, I am also accepting that. I am so scared of. I think he's got about 8 games before his bottom falls out. Because if it doesn't improve, we're all gonna go, oh no. Like, and what's gonna be like? How's this gonna get better? Like, that's been my nervousness. Like, I felt good when the Jags fired Urban, right? I'm like, all right, it's gonna be. They're gonna turn things around. I felt okay when they were gonna get Byron Leftwich, and he was gonna get rid of Trent Baalke. And now it's been 10 days since I've heard about that. And now I hear that they're still the Jags because they forgot to ask the Rams if they could interview one of their coaches. And I'm like, oh, they're going to screw
he's coaching the Vikings.
Yeah.
Let's ask Heath. Let's continue to Washington commandeer the show sheet. Heath, Trevor Lawrence or Russell Wilson in the Superflex Dynasty? Who would you rather have?
In a startup, I'd probably take Lawrence first. I definitely have Lawrence ranked higher in my rankings and on my trade chart. If I had a good roster and a chance to win this year, I'd 100% take Wilson.
Okay.
No, Wilson.
I would take Wilson first, I think, straight up.
I mean, you have a tremendous situation with the offense that has come over from the 49ers with their efficiency in the passing game and how they want to operate. And they don't have the running back necessary in order to operate the offense. With the developing offensive line, you have to take the opportunity that could be set into place where you see an immediate win, especially with the weapons at the offensive position or at the wide receiver position moving forward. But let's hop into this last section because we only got 3 minutes left now.
Well, there's a great trade question there. The startup draft question.
All right, here we go. Here you go, Shane. This is your time to shine.
This isn't for me.
This is your time to shine, though.
We do this show for the people.
This is for the
Bane.
Yeah, we're like communists, like the Washington commies. I like to get in the 207 and 2207 side because at 404, 509, those are mid-tier.
This is a startup, I'm assuming, right? This is a startup trade?
Yeah. They're higher mid-tier guys, but I want Moodle. I want needle movers, and that's who I'm going to get at 207. So I'm fine with this trade. I really would have preferred to get something more back than the 2207, but I mean, honestly, what I would have probably tried to do and do this next time is at least start can I get a 9th rounder back? You know what I mean? At least start there. Don't go as low as 2207. But overall, I'm fine with the trade.
What do you think?
Yeah, it's a win.
All right, yeah. I still would move back essentially and grab as many picks as I could.
Third rounder? No, but see, I mean,
I don't care about the third rounder. I care about the 404 and the 509. Let me just log.
That's where Deebo Samuel went. Just saying.
Well, that goes back to if you just pick the right players,
Then you still lost in the first 2 rounds for the most part. You still lost on a 60% rate this past year.
I would take the 404 and the 509. At this point in the year, I just want to compile assets, and I want as many outs as possible to being right. I want to bet against certainty. So to me, Dave wanted me to say plus EV before. I think that the plus EV move is with the later picks, because to me, you have 3 outs in this scenario. You take the 404 and the 509. Number one, your 404 surpasses or matches the 207. Number 2, 509 matches or surpasses. Number 3, the 207 falters. And then number 4, the cumulative value, the 2 picks overpasses. I think you have 4 outs being right on one side, 1 on the other. So give me the 2.
Meadle-doovers.
The Washington Meadle-doovers. That should have been their name.
Meadle-doovers.
All right, so we got to hop on this last section so we can close this out.
Okay.
Of the last 3 teams, we have, the guys who have studs, right? But they could be left holding the bag, like Jacob loves to say. And essentially, I got that phrase from you, Jacob. So thank you very much. I will not stop using it. The Falcons, the Browns, the Colts, and the Raiders. Oh, and the Packers as well. If you don't believe
Colts are set. We have our guy.
Get the hell out of here. You know that's not the case. Of those 3 teams, which quarterback leaves and sees immediate success elsewhere over the next couple of years? Not this year necessarily, but 2023. We have the Falcons, the Browns, Colts, the Raiders, and the Packers. Which one should move their player now versus being left empty-handed in 2023?
I think the really interesting thing with the Raiders is you've got the head coach change. And they might have the assets and they have the location to maybe go get one of these good quarterbacks. I wonder if you move on from Carr and just use more picks to go get Rodgers or Wilson or Watson and make a big splash. The other one, though, is if you actually hear from Aaron Rodgers that he's not going to play for you anymore, I would just be ready to go. It's time to rebuild. Let's go see the biggest package we can get. Maybe we can do a sign and trade with Devontae Adams as well.
There was a rumor that came out today that Aaron Rodgers bought property in the Tennessee area. However, obviously Tennessee with Tannehill sees a $60 million cap hit, and unfortunately not even Kai Farley could end up moving that kind of money. So I don't know if that's actually relevant or not.
Yeah, no, Aaron Rodgers just wanted to get his vote transferred to a red state.
Oh my God. As for the Colts, Jacob thinks that Carson Wentz is stuck there.
No, the team that should do this is the Raiders, because they're the only one that has misguided trade value attached to their mediocre quarterback. Everyone else, like Baker Mayfield's coming off a down season. Carson Wentz is coming off of a bummer last 2 games after what was a fine season. Not good, but it was fine. Carr, people, for whatever reason, people really like Derek Carr. I don't know if it's his press conferences or his beautiful eyes, but people think that he's a difference maker. Some people do, or at least some people just don't think you need a difference maker, and they think that he's a serviceable option. I think he's the one guy that clearly has first round pick plus level trade value. And I think that if you're the Raiders, you move Carr either, like Heath said, I love that. Use Carr as a springboard, add to Carr to go get a legitimate top-end option, or take Carr and trade him for a bundle and draft somebody else in there and then try to win, on the rookie contract, use that pick elsewhere.
I wonder, I hadn't thought about that until you said it. Because I was thinking trade Carr to one of these quarterback-needy teams and then use all the picks to go get Rodgers. But the one guy that Adams might be interested in staying in Green Bay to play with, besides Aaron Rodgers, would be Derek Carr.
His boy.
If he gets franchised and, he's like, hey, I'll play if you bring in somebody that's decent.
Right.
That's the handshake they have behind the scenes with Green Bay. It's like, hey, if you bring in a guy that I'm willing to play with, Derek Carr, might be one of them. So I love that take. Obviously, that was something that I wanted to consider. But it's tough to sit there and talk Rodgers into going to play for Raiders.
Really?
Right? I mean, who do they have a wide receiver outside of Waller?
They have Renfro. They have the Rengo.
Renfro, he doesn't care about slot receivers. We saw what he did with slot receivers.
He doesn't care about slot receivers. He called the front office and he said, I will not come back unless you trade a third for my corpse of a slot receiver, Randall Cobb.
And Devontae Adams does play in the slot plane.
Yeah.
But they could go get Godwin too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could. They absolutely could. I mean, but that's,
I don't know if they could, but it sounds good.
They actually could get Godwin, Gallup. They can trade for. I'm sure they could trade for someone.
Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley. He wants to move on from the Falcons.
Now we're talking.
I really do like the car ending up in Green Bay with Devontae Adams, mostly because I want to see the drama involved between Aaron Rodgers and how pissed off he would be after that. Like, I would just love to see it. Like,
And
I
even
wanna
if
see
even
the
if
car-
Rodgers can't bring Adams with him, they could let him bring Marquez Valdes-Scantling with him.
there you go, same difference.
True. And he is a Raider by definition, runs real fast and catches about a third of the balls thrown to him. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I remember early in Carr's career, and I don't think it's changed late. He has been awful in cold weather. And very early in his career, I had tweeted about this, and he was just really, really bad in cold weather. And someone had actually asked him about it. And he said that no, he likes cold weather. He always turns the AC really low. And his girlfriend complains because the AC is down in the 60s. He is really not like cold weather. I'm not sure Green Bay would be great for that, but he'd probably get used to it.
Okay, so he's 0-5, and I'm stealing this from Yahoo. We're citing Yahoo, so it's not stealing. Paul Denner Jr. Carr is 0-5 in games where the temperature has been 37 degrees or less at a kickoff.
What about
And I
38
think
degrees?
my stat was, and it was just a couple of years ago, I haven't updated it recently, but it was actually below 50 degrees.
It was even
His quarterback rating was just awful.
Okay, so then we can't make that move unless Green Bay, the city, is willing to move to the West Coast.
Well, I grew up in the Midwest, the actual Midwest, not the Middle East that people call the Midwest, but Kansas City.
They're like Ohio.
Talk about Ohio,
Oh, the
Ohio's
Illinois, and Indiana are in the Midwest, and that's the Middle East. Of the country. But I moved to Florida 7 years ago, and it took about 3 years before 60 degrees is now cold. I remember like the first year of my son's soccer practice, we would go to the practice and be 60 degrees, and we're wearing shorts and t-shirts, and everybody else is wearing coats to soccer practice when it's 60 degrees outside. And we laughed at them, and now we are them.
As a Canadian, I am appalled by this entire statement of 60
I am
degrees
appalled that
being
anyone-
considered cold.
I'm appalled that anyone would choose to live in Canada. Cold, not because there's anything wrong with Canada.
Well, no.
Except
Other
for the
than
fact that it's cold all the time.
Dude,
And
I didn't
there's
leave my
lots of
house today. It was
Canadians
40
there.
degrees out. It was 40 degrees. I did not leave my house. Way too cold. Way too cold.
No.
I wore a wetsuit the other day because it was 30 degrees out, and I had to walk my dog. So I threw on a wetsuit.
Wait, you wore a wetsuit?
Yeah, because it was
Like
too
you
cold.
like
and I had
you
to
were
walk my
scuba
dog.
diving in the middle of the sidewalk? Like, what?
I have people have pictures of me walking my dog because I had to wear a wetsuit out.
Did you have flippers on?
No, just my wetsuit. I
they
had my
not sell-
booties. I had my booties on though. I had my
They
booties.
don't sell jackets in Virginia.
The jackets aren't warm enough. The jackets are not warm enough.
They don't make them correctly in Virginia. You can't get those types
Anywhere.
of jackets
If
there.
it's below 40 degrees, it is miserable.
We have these special jackets. This I guess is what we're ending the show on, unless Chase literally mutes my mic. But has anyone ever heard of the Canada Goose jacket?
Yeah, Canadian down, whatever.
Yeah,
Canadian
so
down
we have these jackets in Canada called the Canada Goose. For anyone that hasn't heard of it, and they make them they have factories across Canada, but a lot of them originally got made in northern Canada, and it's like this crazy insulating down feathers, and they cost like $1,400. But they're impervious to the cold. It can be -50, which it actually does get to -50 on the Canadian prairies on occasion. But you're wearing a Canada Goose jacket, you are impenetrable. You are impenetrable to wind, to snow, to Heath's taunts, to anything. It's nothing. You're cozy.
Does the subway, train, boat go to the plains?
The Canadian plains or prairies. I can't. Let's go ahead and get out of
You
here.
have prairies. You have like multiple Dakotas in your country. That's full of prairie.
Yeah.
Listen,
Missouri and Kansas are largely prairie.
Don't you ever attack a red-blooded American, all right? You Canadian interloper.
Especially not in an open carry state.
Okay, Heath, where can we find you, man? I'm gonna let you get out on all this.
I'm on Twitter at Heath Cummings, SR. CBS Sports, I'm updating all my Dynasty content right now. I've got new rankings, new tiers, new trade chart, a new mailbag just out today. Mock drafts next week. That's the best place.
All right, Jacob, you're up, bud.
Yeah, man, you can find me on twitter.com, FF_RTDB. You can find my written work up on Player Profiler. I wrote the last and final Pareto Principles DFS column last week. So we won't be talking DFS for a while, but excited to get in the lab on some evergreen off-season content. Going to be working on a study right now with the translatability of targets per route run for rookie and sophomore wide receivers. That's like the bigger project I'm working on right now. And then I'm going to do something about running back replaceability in best ball and redraft, and then eventually Dynasty League. So excited for that. Probably no written content for a bit because I'll be in the lab. But always you can find me on Twitter, FF_RTGB. You can find me here every Wednesday, and you can find the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast with Tom and Billy every Tuesday night.
All right, Shane, what you got, man?
At Twitter, Shane is the worst. Just click on all my links. Although today I had a couple articles drop. But if you like salary caps, and who doesn't love talking about the salary cap, you can check out what I dropped on fantasy data today. Dug deep into the Saints. If you didn't get enough Saints talk here. And then also the DLF mailbag. I'm handling that this offseason. So that one dropped this week. Today, actually, if you wanted to check that out.
I love that. You're so good with the people. Like you're great with the people. Send you the mail. You answer the mail. I think that's a great fit.
Look, I got to be honest with you. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do. You know, I mean, honestly, the best part of fantasy, I think, like doing analysis, is answering questions, because you can go so many different ways, and there's so many you get stuck on this mindset of like what you need to work on until people send you questions, and you're like, oh, let me go look at this.
Shane has a magic 8-ball essentially that he shakes, and whatever it comes up with is the way that he actually goes and he answers those questions. Should I trade X or Y? Let me shake it and then come up with a reason as to why.
I just like to picture Shane as like a Santa-like figure sitting in the North Pole of Philadelphia, and people are like, "Dear Shane is the worst. You know, should I trade back in my startup?" And Shane's like, "Well, you've been good this year, so I'll give you the answer. I think you should."
That was his post. You guys can go find all our content over there. Join our circle _ on Twitter. You guys can go find all my stuff at FF_intervention on Twitter as well. Of course, fantasyintervention.com. Go check out the dose score, where we actually rate pass catching running backs based off of some sort of formula that I came up with when I was sleeping one time. It was pretty amazing. But it's worked out on a 83% rate, which is the final number for the season. It has been successful when playing DFS players on 83% of the occasions. Yeah, and then go check out all of my written content at playerprofiler.com, along with my rankings at Dynasty Nerds, and then Dynasty Happy Hour. Every other Sunday we'll be picking back up. And I have a huge announcement to make that I'm going to be making on the show right now. We are going to continue Some yards are better than no yards, where we actually teach kids with special needs how to play fantasy football at a younger age, so they have ways to interact with other kids, have mathematical along with health benefits, understanding different ways to kind of teach themselves a little bit about football itself, and have, like I said, an interacting way to do so. Wow, I butchered that one. But yeah, go check it out at Some Yards over there on Twitter.
Very cool.
Appreciate you guys for coming in. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you all for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.